And now, your Pickle Gals.
Welcome back, everyone, or welcome if it's your first time listening to our Pickle Gals podcast. My name is Chrishawn Spackman.
And I'm Rachel Roney.
And we are
the Pickle
Gals. Hey, it's always great to catch up. Things have changed a little bit, both physically in terms of location, jobs, brands, the whole 9 yards. So
yeah,
tell us what's going on, Rachel.
We're always evolving, Chrishawn. We're learning and growing. So yes, I am a couple weeks in now to my new role at Performance Pickleball RVA as the director of programs and partnerships, and it's super busy in a great way. Rolling out some new programs, youth pipelines, and starting to develop some new partnerships that I'm excited about. So it's all been really good. It's been fun to be in person and get to know everybody. And if you didn't notice yet, we have a different setup today because Chrishawn's not physically with me in the room. So tell us about your move.
Yeah, so first, let me just say nothing's going to change other than the presentation. The Pickle Gals seasons will continue. But yes, my daughter and I both have moved to Florida. She started college. It's always been in the plan, but now it's happened. So it's reality. So very, very interesting as we make the change. Other than that, we just came off of NPL Kansas City. So other than one weekend in the NPL where we had all our injuries, we've been 3-1 every weekend. So that's fantastic. It's always close enough, but far enough away from the money. So again, second place team that took the money beat us by 1 point in the point differential, yet we beat them head to head. So it's a tough way to go out, but we're still doing well. We're sitting right around sixth place overall based on point differential. In terms of record, we're tied at fourth, so out of 12. So it's going really, really well. Probably most excited to be able to say that my quad injury is, crossing fingers, completely healed, dare I say.
Nice.
So that's pretty awesome. So other than that, one quick note, you might notice my hat. We could talk about this another day, another time, but I have made the leap to Team Gearbox. So if you need any Gearbox stuff, let me know or have questions. I've learned a lot about the paddles, so I'm sure I'll hear a lot about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks to Team Engage because they've been great to me as well.
Yeah.
And welcome Team Gearbox. So always great to catch up with you. This is a juicy topic. We intentionally have it for our last episode of season 1. Never fear, we'll be back season 2 in about a month, and we'll come to that towards the end.
Yeah.
But with that, it's juicy, people. Rachel, what's going on today?
That's right. I think this is the topic maybe that was most requested and one that I think we maybe talk about the most, whether we're on the court or off the court, and that is partnerships. And so we're going to talk about everything from how they form, how to be a good teammate, to the flip side of that, which are the breakups. So cue the hit song, Taylor Swift, We Are Never, Ever Getting Back Together, or whatever song is on your breakup playlist there. But we're going to dive into all those aspects today.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating to discuss. When we took this project on, we said nothing's off the table. And this was one of the hottest topics, to your point, everybody was asking about. Interestingly enough, just in the last week on social media, I've seen multiple posts about partnerships. One blatantly just said, I'm breaking up with my partner. How do I do it? And then there's been a lot about treatment of partners on the court lately and a lot of, dare I say, disgust out there. So perfect timing. Glad it's working out. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to find the best partnerships, those that will work. It is, you're going to hear this all day, listeners. It is much like dating. In almost not every way, but it's a lot like dating. So, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes effort. We have to navigate the development of those partnerships. And like you said, unfortunately, we need to know how to navigate the ending of those partnerships. So I'm going to kick it back to you and put you on the hot spot first and ask you, what do you consider, what do you look at if we just start with how do we even find or pick a partner, I should say? Mixed or women's?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it can be a little different, whether it's men's or women's in some ways. And so part of that is at the level this slightly higher level that I'm playing at now, it feels like there's less women to choose from. So I tend to see more consistency in the partnerships. And then on the mixed side, there's just a lot more options. There's a lot more guys to choose from. So I tend to see more switch ups there, or it could just be due to availability sometimes, but there are just more people to choose from, essentially. And for me, I think I'm really looking at styles of play when I'm selecting a partner. That's one of my main things that I look for. So knowing, my own strengths or how I like to play, and then finding a partner that matches that style. So for me, I love to drop any chance that I get. I want to set my partner up. So I tend to look for more of an assertive crasher, one that wants to kind of look for those high balls and speed it up. So that's obviously easier in the mixed side, because guys tend to be more of that player. Women's side, again, that can be a little bit more difficult to choose, but I'm seeing more and more women become more assertive. We talk about that a lot, is how do you, and on the women's double side, how do you become more assertive? So styles of play is definitely what I'm looking for at first when I'm looking. So how about you?
Yeah, well, you stole my styles of play. The styles of play as a parameter. So my probably most fundamental go-to is communication. And here again, we might as well be talking about dating again. Communication, styles of communication, that is just huge, I think, especially like we talked about, building it up. And of course, nurturing it, and then of course at the end, if it requires breaking up. And I think that it really takes knowing yourself and knowing, just like you said, you know your style of play. We should also know our style of communication and being, and how do we handle conflict? How do we handle loss? How do we handle ourselves and our partners, for that matter, when things aren't going well or there's conflict? So I think it's really important that I, as a player, need to understand my personality style, my way of communication, and figure out, AA can work, AB, BB, all these combinations are out there and they can work, but knowing how I work, I probably can figure out what works best for me when it comes to personality. So, personality and communication, I think I'll talk a little about communication later too, but they kind of go together. But I think initially, if I step back a second, I'd go with personality maybe, and communication again kind of ties into that. But it's not always about the skills and how we play on the court, but how we navigate each other as people, and our personality is who we are. And so the reality is not all personalities will go together. We always say opposites attract. And it seems like a lot of times in the beginning, that's the excitement, right?
Oh yeah.
But then over the duration of time, the opposite piece may be what tears us apart or separates us further. So again, knowing your personality, knowing your style, how you handle these conflicts and things, and how you work best with someone else in those same situations, I think is really important. Great players, amazing players don't make amazing partnerships, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're a team. So just picking someone because they're an awesome player doesn't necessarily mean you're going to form a great partnership. So those are great points. I think, you might love somebody off the court too, and then when you get on court with them, it's not so great. And I think that plays into your point in terms of the chemistry that you two have on the court, how even your nonverbal communication is happening between the two of you, not just what you're actually saying to each other. And I think it really goes back to just being honest with yourself and with that person along the way, because the goal is for you both to grow as players and become better, whether that means sticking together or maybe not. And I do think I'll say that there are benefits to sticking with the same partner and figuring it out. You're not going to have all of those things automatically, but I've seen partnerships really grow and evolve with certain pairings because they stuck together and they didn't just constantly switch it up because they had a bad tournament one time with someone. You're going to go through ebbs and flows as with any partnership. And so sometimes riding through those difficult moments can actually make you, I think, a better team. So Similar to our conversation on coaching, it's wanting the best for each other and communicating along the way, even when it's difficult. So, and I think about too, what does it mean, besides picking the partner, being a good teammate? How do you become a good teammate on the court? What would you say to that? Today's sponsor for our partnerships episode is Rich Cat Supply, which is perfect because I've teamed up with Rich Cat Supply, a female-owned 3-generation family brand that celebrates the rich moments on the court. Whether you're a beginner or pro, they have equipment and bags for everybody in any walk of life. So not only does their commitment go to the community of us pickleballers, but also beyond the court, their commitment, if 20 paddles are sold, they donate those back to youth programs around the country. So a very cool brand. I'm excited to partner with them. I actually play with their signature Animo paddle. They just dropped the newest versions with brand new colors. So if you want to check them out, go to richcatsupply.com and use code ZENPB with an exclamation point for 15% off.
Yeah. That's a good one because, we talked about choosing someone and our chemistry and our personality. But then how do we mesh all of that together to become not just a good player, but a good teammate? So I think there's a lot of things. I think fundamentally just be a decent human being. It seems so simple, but clearly
simple.
Look at the social post this week. It's not.
Yeah.
But please just try to keep in mind being a sensible, a kind, good human being fundamentally. But something that's interesting about this is that I want to share is an experience I had at the NPL, and I think it was actually our very first weekend. So everybody was new playing together for the most part anyway. So I want to share that in this context, and that is we had our top Pod 1 pair playing, and it was a critical match. Because if we win the match, we win the whole match. If we lose the match, we go to a team breaker, right? Okay. So this was a lot of pressure, a lot going on, a lot of attention on the court. And our Pod 1 in game 1 got down like 2-9. I mean, it was pretty bad. So something like that. And you could just see both people start to kind of get frustrated and communication breakdown and, the verbal, nonverbal stuff kind of changing. And so in the midst of all of that, someone called a timeout. And so during that timeout, the guy came over to someone that's very a heavy influence in his life and for our whole team, actually. And I overheard them. They started talking. And she looked at him and said, know your partner. Know where they come from. And he's just looking at her. And she's like, she's a former high-level beach volleyball player.
Okay.
What can they do between points, good or bad, whether it's a good point or a bad point? What do those volleyball players do? In fact, I just watched the Olympics in Paris, and I witnessed it at that high level, and it's so very true. She said they get together, they make eye contact, they connect between every single point, and it's only about the next thing.
Yep.
It's not about the last thing that happened, but it's that getting together every single time, making a connection, and saying something about the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think, in the context of being a good teammate, he went back out there, whether that was his comfort zone or not. He went back out there in between every single point that game, and guess what? The next 2 games, because we won the first. We turned that 2-9 around and won the game 11-9.
That's awesome.
They came back and they did it again and again. Ended up winning the entire match. And the only thing that changed, style didn't change. Their chemistry didn't change per se. Their shot selection or decisions didn't change. The only thing that really changed of measurement is the way he became a different teammate in that moment. And that changed everything. And they won the match, and we won that day. And so I think, that knowing your partner beyond the surface, know who they are, where they come from. And in some cases, the sport history might matter, because when I watched that Olympic volleyball, our women's top team, they held hands when they took a timeout, walked off off the court and held hands until they got back onto the court. I mean, it
wow.
was really
They're connected.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was really connected, but it showed you they were staying connected in a time of turmoil or what have you. So I just think that's really, really important. Know your partner. It allows you to toggle to maybe a different strategy and overcome things in a certain particular moment. And it worked. It really worked. The only, so that's the story I just wanted to share. From a quick tips perspective, I would say, you know, what's really important is we all have times we don't play well. Games are not typically or commonly won 11-0 or lost 0-11. So people are making mistakes. So watch your verbal and your nonverbal behavior as well. You really, your nonverbal, sometimes we're just not aware of it. Watch that and just be aware that we know we're making a mistake. I don't need you to help me know that I made a mistake. So just be aware of it. Again, connect. And what goes with that, I think, is build up your partner. Hey, I really like that decision. Hey, that was a great idea. You know, next one, you've got it. You know, anything that builds people up, I think is important. So I think it all comes down to, you know, connect during every point, verbally and non-verbally, in whichever way works for the two of you. I think is important.
Absolutely. I think, to your point, exactly, it's about connection. And it reminds me of one of our previous episodes too, when we talked about love languages. It kind of plays into that same dynamic. What do you need on the court that makes you feel good, and vice versa for the other person? And that can kind of give you some cues as to, for me, it's words of affirmation. So I do want to communicate and have that connection, similar to the volleyball story. So I think just to kind of recap what we've gone through so far, just to touch on a few of those key points, like you said, fist pumps over frowns. So that non-verbal communication, your body language, are you slumping over? Do you look tired? Not only does that impact your partner, but it's cueing the other team. Oh, we're getting to him. Oh, we upset him. We threw them off. So you're actually hurting the whole team if you're kind of giving that away to your opponents as well. So just something to think about there. Like you said, focus ahead. You can't do anything about what just happened. And so it's that connection point, like you said, that eye contact. We're talking about what we're going to do next, strategically, where we want to put the ball, things like that, not what could have gone differently. And you can discuss that later, right, after the match. And then, like you said, being specific, give specific feedback about what's happening that's good on the court. If they had a great drive, whatever that was, that just pumps us up, I think, as humans. So great points. I think now I want to flip us over to the other side of this coin, which is
the dark side.
The dark side, yes. You know, breakups happen, partnership changes happen. We see it at every level. How do you navigate this? You know, I have some experience on all sides of this, including being ghosted at times, or, you know, having to have difficult conversations. So what are your kind of key points in those situations?
Yeah. First, thanks to all my partners, because for the most part, I haven't, you know, knock on wood, I've had some fantastic partnerships. So I'm lucky there. But, first of all, you mentioned ghosting. Do not ghost anyone.
Please don't.
I mean, that goes back to be a decent human being, but ghosting someone doesn't help anybody at all. And don't forget how small the world we live in pickleball. And so we don't want something to come full circle back to us.
Exactly.
So that would be for sure. And then again, looking back at this as a relationship, it is a relationship. So treat it that way, treat it with that kind of respect. And I started to talk about this a little bit a moment ago when I was talking about personality. I think communication, this is where communication really blossoms. It really comes into play, just like relationships. So my whole thing is, I don't like to be surprised. Okay. So if I don't have any communication that's suggesting to me along our journey that something's gone awry, or that you're unhappy or upset with me on the court or something, and you come to me or you text me, not recommended, I'd rather you call to say, hey, I'm moving a different direction. That would be a big surprise to me. So I don't think that's fair to anybody. And I don't think you're going to sleep well at night either. Again, if you're a decent human being.
Right.
So my thing is communication. Communicate often. If you're having a struggle, talk about it. The bottom line is, if you have these conversations along the journey and you come to that point where you feel like you've got to take that fork in the road, then at least when you are communicating that, hopefully by phone at least, or in person, not by text or email, then it's not a surprise to them. They may be off guard. They may be like, oh, but at least even in their own reflection of it, they can kind of follow the bouncing ball, you would hope, to say, you know what, we have had a couple of conversations about this. Maybe I would say I should have even seen it coming. But the point is, I'm not being surprised. So you're handling it with respect. So I can't say enough about communication. And remember, it's a small world. You don't want to burn your bridges, or you may not get to where you want to go in your own journey, more or less your journey with your future potential partner. So my vote is communicate and don't surprise anybody.
Yeah. So
guess what? I get to ask you. What do you think? How do you break hearts and shatter dreams?
Well, hopefully I don't. I'm working on being a little more direct, I think, but I do try to be open to communicate and kind, and it's not comfortable, but as Brene Brown says, you got to step into the arena, and that's where we grow and are able to kind of authentically be good people, whether that's a disappointing conversation or something building up. So I did find some funny tips of things that you can say, listeners, if you are struggling to find a comment or just to bring some levity to this breakup conversation right now. So a couple of fun ones I saw were, I think we should start playing with other people. And that one, okay. Other one is, I don't think I'm ready for a full-time partnership right now. So want to be in that open partnership landscape. Use that one. And then my favorite one was, it's not your duper, it's mine. So just to, give you some fun comments you can mix in there if you want to make them laugh.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but I've definitely, I've had many of these scenarios in partnerships and actual relationships, as we talked about. Those all come back full circle. But just being direct, and lastly, don't take it personally. We're not having these conversations and directly, it's not a direct attack. It's, if you're going into it for the growth of both people and the best for both people, then you can have that conversation and not feel like disappointed or that you let someone down in that process.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes me think of something real quick before we wrap up. And that is, sometimes partnerships end. Why do partnerships end, right? I mean, sometimes it is the personality, the lack of chemistry, the poor communication, the things we're saying we need to do. Sometimes it's just we're going in different directions, or maybe we are growing in different rates, right? Yeah. So I may want to travel less or more than my partner. That could be a reason. Maybe I got lucky and somehow I had a burst and I'm moving up a little faster and you're not ready. So, there's healthy reasons. I don't want to, in joking about this, I don't want to present that there aren't valid, healthy reasons for breakups. There really are.
For sure.
So we talked about maybe wrapping this up with an exercise that we can give to our listeners. So in some of the research I did, there is actually, I think it comes from the game of tennis. There's an exercise called 3-2-1. And the concept or the context is really about self-reflection after you've played. I'm going to put it in the context of partnerships. So at Pickle Gals here, we want to offer our listeners in these situations with partnerships to do a check-in. So just literally as you're picking out a partner and you're talking about, hey, do you want a partner? Bring up right from the beginning, hey, I really think communication is important. So let's have a check-in, like 1-2 weeks after a tournament, whatever time works best for you guys. But go ahead and commit to that up front. Then it's expected, so it becomes a little bit easier and more comfortable. And during those check-ins, talk about your experience. And so this framework of 3-2-1 is a way to do it. 3 things that you guys did well together. 2 things you think you can improve upon. together and one thing that you learned. And it can be 3, 2, 1 from each sides, or it can be you guys discussing things and coming up with 3 things, 2 things, and 1 thing as a team.
I like
so that. With this topic, we want to have fun with it. We also want to give some really great information and from our experience of it. Mm-hmm. Really consider taking that partnership exercise called check-in and do it. Pay attention to it. It'll be very healthy. It'll make the communication much easier. So you're going to nurture the relationship and the partnership to hopefully you won't need to do a breakup.
Right.
But if you do, you will have laid the groundwork and the practice to make that conversation a little bit easier. So with that, our season 1, Rachel, has come to a close.
I know. It went so fast.
It's been so fast. It's been so fun. We appreciate everybody's support along the journey. We are going to take off for about a 1-month period because we have some super exciting stuff coming up in season 2. Such as what? What kind of teaser can you give them?
It won't be just you and I anymore. We're going to have some amazing guests in attendance. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, if we had a volume ticker right now, I think when you said it won't be just us, it might have went, yeah.
Cue the crowd, yeah.
Yes, we'll have some great guests. Yeah, we'll definitely have some great guests. Say that 10 times. Joining the show from all walks of life and all different kinds of topics and aspects. So we want to say thank you sincerely. Please reach out to us on any social media platform. Our email again, contact@thepicklegals.com. Topics, feedback, what have you. Guests that you would like to hear from. We'll jump on it. We've got a month to get it done, and we can't wait to get back to see you again. Rachel, thank you for a great season. Thanks for all the supporters. And with that, until next season, court is adjourned.